Welcome to everyone in this series of videos where I'm doing overviews of my locomotives. In this particular video I'm going to be doing an overview of my layout. I've had quite a number of inquiries from people saying they'd like to see this side of the layout in a bit more detail. So I thought rather than just running more trains around it, I would actually just do a video and try and carefully go over using the camcorder, looking at various aspects of, if you like, life on this side. So, but before I get into that in any great detail, I'd just like to sort of point out, because I've had a few comments from people about the my filming. Now, I do hold my hand up here and say that the filming is not one of my strong points. It's not one of the best aspects of my videos at all. Now, for my part, there is a very good reason for that. Is I find it very, very difficult to do this side of things. I haven't got the know-how, the patience and the wherewithal to do lots of editing to get a professionally finished product, and I know there's quite a lot of people who are very much into that. I have to say I'm not into it at all. It doesn't interest me. But the main aspect for me is that I've only got the use of one hand, so this is a very difficult thing for me to try and manage very well. You know, I'm so, in a sense, I've got a disability. I don't want to make a big deal out of this. I've lived with it for most of my life. I get on with it absolutely fine. But sometimes I just get slightly irritated when people just jump in and make assumptions about me without even knowing the reason why my videos are the way they are. So just to clarify that point, I mean, the other thing is that I like to get up close and personal to my railway and my locomotives and trains in particular. I'm trying to record them and visualise them the way I remember them when I was young and in my, if you like, train spotting days. I'm not one of those that likes to put a camera on a tripod, have it looking down on the layout, seeing trains going whizzing around in all sorts of different directions. It's, you know, I'm not a pigeon, I'm not a seagull or a skylark. I don't remember seeing railways like that. So I always try to do things at sort of track level, platform level, line side level, and do panning shots going along. So anyway, I just thought I'd get that out the way, and we can have a look at this now, starting over on this side with the engine shed. So here we go. There's a number of locomotives on the depot there, and we've got, there seems to be a noise going on outside. Sorry about that. We got the sand drying part of the engine shed. Huts and things. The back of a terraced house there, going right on the back of the, facing onto the engine shed. And there is what I've done there is basically fill a space that's in a on a windowsill. The buildings, most of the buildings that I have are either super quick or Metcalf or combinations, or I've combined them with other things. There's the front of the engine shed. And that's a windowsill there. And there's the back, there's a famous Pico backdrops. And quite pleased with the little result there. Unintentionally I got a bit of a 3D effect with the backdrop and the super quick terraced houses. It's got period cars there, and ice cream van, people. I've got quite a lot of figures dotted across the layout because they bring the whole thing to life. And you can see figures there working on the Britannia fire dropper, and some maintenance work going on as the crew look on. And things, again, details around the engine shed. One of the things you used to remember when we used to go around engine depots, you'd see all sorts of fire irons littered across the floor. You really had to be careful about where you were putting your feet. A total health and safety nightmare by today's standards. I've sort of noted on some model railway forums people pouring scorn on the idea of putting unused wheel sets outside an engine shed. You say, oh, how cliched. Problem with that idea though is that it actually did really happen. You see it today now on the heritage railways, and it was certainly very much the case back in the day around depots. You would see lines of rusty wheels outside engine sheds, either being replaced or waiting for some form of maintenance. Some chimneys there as well. So if I bring the camcorder a bit further forward, I've put this Depaul Girder Bridge across here as a feature, basically to give some dimension of height, because I didn't want to do rail lines going over tunnels, over bridges, under things and through things. You're getting into the thing of gradients and curves then, and that was an additional complication I couldn't do. I could do without, just put it that way. So workman's huts here. They've managed to weather those down, dry brush technique. They're Wills and Craftsman models. The signal box is a super quick signal box, and what I've done is it's two kits spliced together to make this like a feature prominent signal box that you'd see on the main, just outside a railway station on the main line, set in a strategic position. Actually inside, I don't know if you can see, there's all the internal fittings and details, all the levers. There's signalmen in there. Again, then there's the work gang that the trains whiz past, which you've probably seen. These are all, I think they're Airfix. I got them from Depaul anyway, and I think they took over the Airfix tooling for these. Painted all those. Quite a task that was, but I think it was worth it. Again, it brings the whole thing to life. And there we can see there's the Depaul water tower. There's a Pico turntable with a dusty looking Duchess on it. Again, you can see there's figures. Note the little bicycle shelter there. Railwaymen used to get to and from work using a bike, and occasionally a motorbike as well. Just a bit of information about the Girder Bridge. Those of you that are fans of Jerry and Sylvia Anderson's puppet shows, Thunderbirds and Stingray, if you look at anything that's going on underground, beneath Tracy Island or in Stingray beneath Marineville, you will see the use of these girders in the structures for the various craft that they used in those TV series back in the day. Just a little interesting aside. If you have a look on YouTube and you have a look at the intros to these things or the snippets that they put up, cast your eye around on some of that and you'll see some of this girder structure in those TV shows from the back in the 1960s. Now the rest of the moving along here of the depot consists of the coaling tower and the ash plant, and these were iconic structures that would be a key feature of any major depot, and they certainly add a certain dimension of realism and I don't know, sort of authority to the whole thing. Just focus a little bit on my signals here. Can I get these to move a bit closer? Yeah. For me, there's two features that make a layout, and you know, people can have various opinions about this, but for me, the two main things are paint your rails and make sure you've got semaphore signalling, unless of course you're doing colour lighting signalling as a feature, which is certainly would be the case for more modern image. My model railway is a niche project. It represents the railway as it existed up until about 1968. There is nothing in my modelling, or virtually nothing, that's post 1968. It's a steam age setup, and it's just the railway that I remember and the railway that I love. I have a passing interest in the modern scene, but it doesn't really grab my attention in the way that the railways used to. So you've got the coaling tower and the ash plant that they're made by Bachmann as the famous Pico backdrop with a retaining wall. That's the Hornby Dublo breakdown crane, which I detailed with some additional transfers and things. And there we've got a very small, a tiny, in fact, goods yard. Limitations of space means that both the goods yard and the locomotive depot beyond the Girder Bridge are very much reduced and smaller versions of the real thing. But the fact that they're there still creates that overall impression. And again, I've tried to make the goods yard look a busy place. That's the rather superb Wills pump house. And again, the careful use, or I don't know, the careful use of a dry brush technique enables you to get a finish on that model, which makes it very real. If you see the chimney, it's obviously like a metallic sort of chimney. It's a bit dirty, a bit grey and silver, but the closer to the top it gets, you can see it gets rusty. If you look at the roof, nondescript colour, just totally nondescript. Again, you're just using dry brush technique on that. There's an extractor fan on the outside of it, and you can see that I've simulated the idea of paint flaking off it. Okay, there you got a coal depot with a coal lorry there, coal sacks, people around on the goods depot. That's a Triang 040 diesel shunter which I repainted, and I glazed the windows on it, retransferred it, and I hand painted the wasp chevrons on the back. It's okay, but don't look too closely. I don't know if also you can see what I did. I took off the tiny Triang buffers and I put some large buffers on it, which was typical of that type of diesel shunter. There's the goods depot there, and you can see those Scammell Scarab three-wheeler vehicles with the loads. And you see activity there, people, good staff moving stuff around. See the retaining walls got enamel signs. This is another windowsill, so what I've simulated here is a street scene. That's mostly, it's mainly Super Quick and Metcalfe. This in fact was from my previous railway, which I had in my previous house. By the way, this has been here 10 years now, this model railway. It took me about 4 months to do. Here we're looking at the station. I'm just going to, I knocked a signal over. Put that back up, yeah. Signals, yeah, I've got that back up. The station is a combination of the Super Quick Terminus station, which is this building here with a clock tower on it, which is then being blended into the Metcalfe footbridge. And what I was trying to create here was the impression of a very busy, substantial through station. I suppose a bit like Rugby or Preston. And the buildings are on it. The canopies are Hornby. The actual buildings are Super Quick. And you've probably seen this many times as I've run trains through. I've tried to put all the correct period signage up. Again, a lot of people on here, brings it to life. Those very typical British Railways information boards. And the good old Airfix kiosk. I do like those. I've actually put one on each platform. You probably wouldn't have anything like that in reality, because it would probably exist within the station concourse, I suppose. But it's a nice bright feature on the layout. I think these are wills. Basically all you need to do with these is smear on some cream paint, get a tissue paper and just rub all over it. It dulls it down and it fills in all the courses, all the coursework between the bricks. Do the same for the grey archway. And some advertisements on there. Enamel signs, signals, warning things about not crossing the line, please show your ticket signs, all that's there. Again, if you look at where the signal is, I've got one of those red and white warning signs about limited access. You tended to see those at tunnel entrances. There's one there. So yeah, this gives the impression of a busy station. And you can see obviously the railway, where the railways go underneath the arches. and you can see where the Scamell Scarab's coming out. That's a roadway down to the goods depot. There's the busy high street. Woolworths doesn't exist anymore. The cars, vehicles, very much all of the period. And you can see there's outside the post office, there's a Morris Minor post office van. Remember seeing those well. And postman emptying the post box there. Cinema. Is it Boots? The chemist is somewhere there. A bank. Buses, cars. So that fills in that little space that's by the window, on the windowsill. So moving over to here, this is just a general scene of the town. Now, it was my intention to do a lot more with this, but I never really got round to it. I've just left it as it is. So you've got houses and things, but I've done nothing about sort of putting in a roadway or anything which tidies that side of it up. I've just left it as it is. Mixture of super quick and Metcalfe. It sort of blends in quite well with the backdrop, actually. The way those houses back onto the backdrop, you do get a sense of good perspective. So, a little car park here. Figures. Well, that back end piece that I've focused on there, which is a garage and a fire station, that comes away. Fortunately, in the very rare instances where I